We asked our Instagram followers who is the best Golgari commander, and we can now tell you the top 10 best Golgari commanders in MTG 2023 update. Just making it into the list we have Belladros Witherbloom. First printed in 2021's underrated Strixhaven set, this flying elder dragon says at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. You can also pay 10 life to untap all lands you control. These Belladros decks tend to really lean into that life gain, and within Golgari colours, gaining life through creature ETB, creature death, card triggers and more makes it such an easy thing to accomplish. Of course, again within those blue-green colours also means plenty of ways to make sure when you're gaining life, you're also draining your opponents for double the trouble.
Double trouble!
We're creating pests at the beginning of each upkeep, and we want them to die to trigger our dragon, so having plenty of ways to make sure they don't stick around will really help get this deck moving. Gain all the life, pay 10, untap your lands, finish your opponents, and make sure the game doesn't drag on too long.
Oh! You with your funny jokes.
Before we get on to number 9, make sure when you're signing up to Card Market to use our referral code gathering-the-magic. Shout out to Orochimaru-san for using our code. And if you're looking for the best playmats in the game, check out Paramount. And if you use our link in the description below, you'll get 30% off all playmat designs. My current playmat that I use for my games is their Blood Moon Torii Gate design. So fresh, great design, you love to see it. Moving on to number 9, we have Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. Released in 2017's Amonkhet. Yes, 2017.
Seems like yesterday.
When Hapatra deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 snake token with Death Touch. Immediately focusing on the second part of Hapatra's abilities, we want to fill our deck with everything -1/-1 counters. The more we get out onto the field, the more Death Touchy snakes we will have hitting our side. We all know that those proliferating cards, extra common in green, go hand in hand with anything -1/-1 related, so have a bunch in there and your opponent's creatures will not be sticking around. Not as common but always fun, go for a snake theme to boost those snakes, draw cards and everything else. Lastly, if you want Hapatra to be making sure that combat damage goes through, throw in a few ways to make sure that damage will definitely hit our opponents, create even more snakes and slither your way to victory.
I'm a snake.
Next on the list we have Skullbriar, the Walking Grave. Printed in the OG Commander set in 2011, Hasty Skullbriar says when it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Counters remain on Skullbriar as it moves to any other zone other than a player's hand or library. We're flipping the script from Hapatra and going from -1/-1 to +1/+1. Introduced as far back as Alpha, +1/+1 counters are the most common type of counter in all of MTG. Well, maybe except Counterspell. We want to go counter crazy, play every card possible to get more counters on Skullbriar, because if it goes back to the command zone, it keeps the counters, which is just crazy. And with plenty of cards that double counters, triple them, or give counters whenever anyone casts a spell, this is a commander that's not only cheap to purchase, not only cheap to cast, but also can attack as soon as it hits the field. This is a commander that really is the whole package.
That's perfect.
In at number 7 we have Slimefoot the Stowaway. First printed in 2018's Dominaria, whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. You can pay 4 to create a 1/1 sapling creature token. We know this is all about having a strong sapling squad. With over 80 sapling creature creators in MTG and over 70% of those cards covering our Golgari colours, we have plenty of options at our disposal. Create an overwhelming amount of saplings, then find all the ways to rid the board of our tokens. When these saplings die, we're doing the old drain and gain to our opponents, so having a handful of ways to make sure they leave the field is key. Lastly, a big part of this deck is seeing our creatures leave the field, so make sure to have all of those ways to gain us an even bigger advantage when they do so, whether that's refilling our hand, gaining us more life, just keep us a threat and send our opponents home unhappy. Narrowly missing out on the top half, we have Dina Soulsteeper. Another card first printed in 2021's Strixhaven. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Pay 1 and sack another creature, Dina gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the sacked creature's power. Similar to Belladros, the Dean machine is all about that life gain. Unlike Belladros however, Dina is much cheaper to cast, so with an entire deck full of life gaining madness, it won't take too many turns around the table until you're at 60 life and all of your opponents are at 20. With life gain stretching from creatures to instants, sorceries and even lands, this is something that is very easy to accomplish. And if you want to be devilishly disgusting, throw in all of those infinite life gain win cons, throw in Exquisite Blood and pair that with Dina, Veto, Marauding Blight Priest and probably many more, and win super early and have your friends always refer to you as the WinCon guy.
God, he's such a one-trick pony.
Next on up we have Meren of Clan Nel Toth. Originally printed in Commander 2015, Meren says whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's mana value is less or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the field. Lots of Meren decks focus on that Aristocrats theme. Aristocrats is a deck archetype that aims to benefit from sacking its own stuff, so having creatures that sack to add ramp, sack to remove enemy pieces, scry and everything else not only improves your board state but also helps towards Meren and her love of those experience counters. And once we have plenty of experience counters, the synergy and recursion of what can be brought back and sacked over and over again is delightful. Speaking of delightful, have you seen the reprints Meren has had over the years? That Secret Lair version is so good. Just missing out on the bronze medal spot, we have Shelob, Child of Ungoliant. Printed in this year's LOTR set, Shelob has and gives other spiders you control Death Touch and Ward 2. Whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature except it's a food artifact and loses all other card types. You bet these decks go all out creepy crawlies. With nearly 80 spider creature cards and over a dozen spider token creature creators, this is a deck which the creatures fill themselves. So that means these decks are filled to the brim with every single spider we can see, cards that will trigger to get even more spiders and everything else in between. With the deck revolving around tokens, having plenty of pro token cards is going to help too. Ramp us, drain our opponents and even more. Eventually we will have a wide army to block with or just overrun over our opponents for the win. For the third best commander we have the Gitrog monster. First printed in 2016's Shadows over Innistrad, GM has Death Touch and at the beginning of your upkeep, sack it unless you sack a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever one or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. A land heavy deck, the average Gitrog deck runs 83 or more lands.
Are you sure about that?
We want to not only ramp ourselves silly, but also having ways to make sure we play more than one land per turn. Having lands to sack is absolutely fine too. Our lands can go to the graveyard because not only does it draw us a card from GM's trigger, but most of these decks tend to have all of the land recursion options. Play them, sack them, return them, feed them to the Gitrog monster, and the circle of life is complete. With some big endgame land loving cards, this is a deck that rightfully deserves its bronze medal position. But oh my god, that imaginary friend's secret lair.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Runner-up and the second best commander, we have Chatterfang, Squirrel General. First released in 2021's Modern Horizons 2, Forest Walking Chatterfang says if one or more tokens will be created under your control, create those tokens plus that many 1/1 squirrel tokens are created instead. Pay black and sack X squirrels to give target creature +X -X until end of turn. Of course, here we go token crazy. Throw in every card that is going to create us a token. Chatterfang's text doesn't specify that those tokens have to be squirrels, so create a wide spread of tokens with an added sprinkle of free squirrels that Chatterfang also makes. However, if you want to lean in squirrels, with a handful of squirrel cards and over 30 creature token creators, this is something that is easy enough to lean into. Lastly, that last Chatterfang ability is sneaky good, used to beef up our own creatures if we're able to, or an easy way to remove creatures from our opponent's side of the board. You love to see it. Winner and the best Golgari commander is Lathril, Blade of the Elves. Printed in the 2021 Kaldheim commander set, whenever menacing Lathril deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 elf warrior tokens. Tap Lathril and 10 untapped elves you control to drain each opponent for 10 life and you gain 10 life. Let's talk elves. With over 600 elves in Magic, a load of token creators and all heavily in those Golgari colours, this is a creature type that will never leave you short of options. We're going to be creating elves left, right and centre, so before you know it, we're easily tapping 10 of them, draining our opponents for 10 and gaining 10 life. Of course, Menace already makes it harder for Lathril to be blocked, so if you feel like it, you can always find all of the ways to boost Lathril's power, get more damage of hers through, and create even more evil elves. This is a great commander, one I've played against many times and enjoy playing against too, which makes it part of the reason why I believe Lathril, Blade of the Elves is the best Golgari commander in MTG. There we have it, that is the top 10 Golgari list. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for all things MTG. Check out our link tree for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.